Hi Internet, I'm still in my basement. However, I have been doing some research into Z53 and seeing some of the studies that have been published out there. The one really cool thing about the world being in total disarray is that instead of waiting and publishing things in peer-reviewed journals, a lot of the research has just been thrown online and it's sort of been crowdsourced. The problem with a breakdown in the peer-reviewed journal system is it is very difficult to tell who is legit and who isn't. The interesting thing about Z53 is it is a bacteria. However, it attacks the brain in a very similar way to Creutzfeldt-Jacobson disease, which is like the human form of mad cow disease. And it's been eating away at parts of brains in the victims, or so-called zombies. Anyway, if you take a look at the human brain, a majority of our brains is made up by the cerebrum, which is sort of the outside part of the brain. Then within the brain, there's the cerebellum, and also the limbic system and the brainstem. But the interesting thing about Z53 is that it is not attacking the brainstem. I think it's this part down here. Now, our brain stems are almost identical to the entire brain of a lizard. What is it about this part of the brain that isn't interesting to the Z53 bacteria? It is a crazy evolutionary development of this bacteria because the brainstem is involved in all of those functions that you don't have to think about. For example, breathing, or your heart beating, or your blood pressure. Keeping those very basic functions that you absolutely have to have in order to live, and that brainstem does it without us ever having to pay any attention to it. And the Z53 do not affect the brainstem. This bacteria has basically discovered that it can attack all of these other places in our brains. But if it doesn't attack that very simple, necessary activities, it can continue to spread to other people through infection rates without ever killing its host. They've been trying huge strains of antibiotics to actually try and halt the spread of Z53 through a person's brain with mixed results, and you also don't get that brain tissue back. However, like a stroke victim, you can relearn things. Your brain's pretty awesome at redirecting neurons and functions to different parts of the brain. And the hippocampus is responsible for our short-term memory being committed to our long-term memory. The hippocampus is basically how we learn. And while the hippocampus is affected, it's one of the last things. We've seen with tuberculosis that by throwing antibiotics at something, you can sometimes make it even stronger and even worse. There's that risk of a superbacteria forming that is resistant to all 9 of those antibiotics. But with proper quarantine measures, this could be okay. Even if I got all of the brain stuff wrong, the important message from all of this is that there's hope. And we've got some of the smartest people in the world working on this. Be safe out there.